about Zoom fatigue. So I know there's an irony in doing a Zoom training to talk about Zoom fatigue, but I hope that this can help normalize different your experiences and talk about how to navigate these meetings going forward, or your classes, or whatever that looks like. So let me share what to expect for today. So today, okay, so managing Zoom fatigue. So what we'll be doing today, so we're going to start off with a grounding activity. So a goal that I have, since we are meeting multiple times, is to teach you a different grounding exercise every time that we meet, or something that's related to that. And so today's grounding activity is called a body scan. A body scan, the purpose of that is to gain more insight and awareness into what's going on in your body and what you're experiencing. And so that's what we'll be doing to start off, and to just relax as we're going into it. Afterwards, I'll talk a little bit more about what is Zoom fatigue. I want to hear from you all in terms of how you felt it, how you've experienced it. Everyone experiences it in a very different way, and to just sort of normalize that experience. And I will be going over some strategies to manage Zoom fatigue. I also created like a checklist for you all, that I emailed, and I will share at some point so that we can speak more on it. But the checklist is nice because if you're thinking about what am I doing to manage my Zoom fatigue? How am I actively managing this? Then you can go on the checklist. And at the end, as always, I will have the list of resources, but repetition helps with it. Okay, so let me go to this one. So you all can still see the grounding activity slide, right? Probably some other things. Can you see you can't see anything else?
We can see the grounding. We
Okay.
can kind of see
Is it
if
blocking
you,
it a little?
no, it looks fine actually.
I just I took it out of presentation mode so that I could read my script for the grounding exercise. So I want to make sure that everyone can just see everything. Um, okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the grounding exercise. And so with that, do it as you feel comfortable, participate in the way that you're comfortable. If there's anything that I say that you should do, if you're not comfortable doing that, just don't. If you experience any physical pain or discomfort, please stop doing that. You shouldn't feel anything, but if that does happen, just take a step back, listen to your body, listen to what you're needing in that moment. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and start. So sit down comfortably or lie down somewhere. Um, let your legs and your arms relax. Settle yourself in a comfortable position and close your eyes. Start by taking 2 or 3 gentle, large breaths. Pay attention to how that feels. Your belly rises and falls. Air moves in and out of your body. If you like, you can place a hand on your belly and feel it move with each breath. Now we're going to pay attention to other parts of the body. Start with your feet. They might feel warm or cold, wet or dry, relaxed or restless. It's also okay if you feel nothing at all. If you can, relax your feet now. If that's hard to do, then take a moment and notice how that feels too. For these few minutes, let yourself be still. There's nothing to do. Pay attention as best as you can. You might feel a blanket or socks on your feet, or you might feel them pressing against the floor. When your mind gets busy, gently bring your attention back to your feet again. Now move your attention to your lower legs, noticing whatever is there. Do they feel heavy, light, warm, cold, or something else? Let go of frustration and trying to do anything. Just do your best and give yourself a few moments of rest. Next, move your attention to your knees and relax them. Feel the front, the back, and sides of your knees. After a few more breaths, move your attention to your upper legs. Whatever you feel or don't feel is fine. Notice your legs and let them relax. If you're feeling restless or wiggly, that's okay. That also happens. Now move your attention to your belly. It always moves when you breathe, rising and falling like waves on the sea. You might feel something on the inside, like you're full or you're hungry. You might notice a touch of your clothing. You might even feel emotions in your belly, like happy or sad or upset. If you're feeling that it's hard to focus, that's normal. Just gently practice coming back again and again to how your chest feels when you breathe. So next, bring your attention to your chest. Notice it rising and falling as you breathe. Continue to practice coming back and how your chest feels when you're breathing. Now turn your attention to your hands. There's no need to move them or to do anything with them. They may be touching the bed, the floor, or somewhere on your body. Relax them if you can, and if not, simply paying attention to your hands for another moment. Now continue to take deep breaths and move your attention up into your arms. Maybe notice if you can find a moment of stillness inside you, like the pause at the end of each breath. Next, move your attention around to your back. How does it feel against the bed, the chair, the floor? Notice how it moves with each breath. Now remember, if your mind gets busy or angry or scared, you can always come back to how your body feels in this way for a moment. Now move your attention to your neck and your shoulders, letting go and relaxing them. If your mind wanders, that's fine. No one can pay attention all the time. Just keep returning to noticing your body whenever you find yourself thinking of something else. And now feel your face and your head. What expressions do you have right now? What would it feel like to smile? What else do you notice in your face, your head, and in your mind? Finally, spend a few moments paying attention to your whole body. If it's easier, continue to pay attention to your breath. Take another deep breath. And when you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and return to the presentation. So I want to check in with folks. That was a different type of grounding activity, different than the ones we've done before. One that I find that often it's very challenging to participate in because our minds do wander, and this one's asking you to really pay attention to what's going on in your body. I'm just, Jen, I am curious and would like to hear from you all. What was that like? Was that something that you found helpful? Did you learn something about yourself with this?
I can go. I know that for me, like grounding exercises are really difficult because I tend to like wander a lot. My mind tends to go to different places or like different to-do lists or different, just like random things. So for me, it really requires like discipline to be able to just focus in the here and the now and like the feeling, the touching, or I don't know. To me, it's difficult, but I really like these exercises. And I think they're super helpful for just keeping you grounded, pun intended. Um, and what's going on in like your internal like being. So I like them. They're a little difficult, but I like them.
Absolutely. And yes, these exercises can be really challenging because we're not used to having to pause to really focus and pay attention to our bodies in this way, right? And so sometimes when we stop, or and I've noticed this, I'll stop and suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm so tense. And realizing that, and that's not comfortable, right? When I was unaware, I wasn't realizing how uncomfortable I was. And that awareness brought me into a different space and needing to then manage how do I manage that, right? And so Ali, I saw your comments. So being helpful, it helped you relax mentally and physically. I'm glad. I'm glad. For some people, these types of exercises are helpful. For others, you might feel more restless. And so as we try different exercises, I hope we can find ones that work best for you. All right, so I want to get into this. All right, so let me define Zoom fatigue for you. So when I talk about what Zoom fatigue is, I'm referring to the mental exhaustion associated with extensive communication via virtual platforms. So what does this mean? So this means Zoom, this means like any kind of video chatting, this means FaceTime, right? All of this, any kind of extensive communication via virtual platform, it just happens to be called Zoom fatigue. So with that, like, I will talk about more about why people experience it, but I'm curious for you all, have you heard this term? And if you have, like, how do you think, have you felt that you've experienced this?
I haven't heard of it.
Okay. Thank you. So this is new to you. Thank you, Elijah. What about others? Did you share something, Jennifer? I want to make sure I didn't, I think it's highlighted, but I didn't hear anything. Okay. Bianca, you had unmuted yourself. Was there something you wanted to say? Oh, there's a chat. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'll share how I've noticed some folks or how I've talked to folks in terms of what this feels like. Um, Feeling more exhausted than usual at the end of the day, feeling less uh, energy to engage with others at the end of the day, finding just a harder time focusing, concentrating, or sometimes you might be in the Zoom meeting and it's hard to even pay attention to whatever is going on because you're feeling distracted. Uh, so part of that, so let me be mindful what if I have this on my next slide or not. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so let me go into how it can impact you since I'm already talking about that. You might feel more exhausted. You might feel a sense of increased anxiety and you're not sure like why that is. And you might have a difficult time concentrating. And so with that, um, there's a few different reasons for why this happens. So one is this is a different style of communication, right? We're not used to having to communicate in this mode. And so it forces us to have to pay more attention and have to focus more than we usually would. And so I want to take a moment to read Jennifer's comment. Um, so yeah, so basically about getting exhausted and not being able to focus because you know you can just close the laptop. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so in our daily communication, in our daily experiences, usually you would have different transition moments, different periods where you can go from one place to the next, right? Whether you're going to a class, having time to talk and having to do these things. Now we don't have that. Now there's no transition period and you're expected to just go. You're expected to just keep going and to be hyper focused in every space. Yeah, so like I was saying, this morning you couldn't stay awake in your physics class. Yeah, it gets harder to pay attention to things because you feel that you have to be more attentive and more engaged. So something that I'll share, like when we talk about strategies, the fact that you all have your videos off, that's actually a strategy to help manage some of the Zoom fatigue. Because seeing ourselves on the screen back is not something that we're used to, and it's exhausting for our brain to begin to have to process all of that in addition to everything else that we're doing. So when you're on Zoom, you're expected in many ways, or on any virtual platform, you're expected to somehow read people's social cues differently. So then your mind is trying to comprehend it and really hyper focus. Two, there is a slight delay in communication when you do it this way. It's about, in the research that I read, it's about like 1.2 seconds, but that 1 second over time, it 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 becomes this exponential shift because you're not interacting with people in the same way. So sometimes it can increase that anxiety people feel because people aren't responding to them as quickly as they expect, or the reaction feels delayed. But that has to do more with the connection rather than the actual interaction, right? And so this is some way. So for those of you, so you mentioned experiencing some exhaustion, some difficulty concentrating. Have either any of you experienced any other symptoms that you think could be associated to Zoom fatigue? Have any of you felt more anxious when you're approaching these virtual spaces more than usual?
Can you say the question again?
Yeah. Well, basically, have any of you experienced any other symptoms that you maybe can attribute to Zoom fatigue, or do you relate to any of these? Because you mentioned exhaustion, difficulty concentrating. Has anyone noticed feeling maybe more anxious approaching a Zoom meeting? So finding space where you're not wanting to communicate with others. So I got a chat about that. So not feeling up to engaging in social interactions as much, not having that same cognitive capacity, having some headaches, needing to move away from your laptop. Absolutely. So all of these are signs of like the Zoom fatigue, right? And so it's important to figure out how to manage that because this is our current reality. And in our current reality, you need to figure out like, how do we help you survive? How do we help you ease some of the stress you experience? How to reduce the exhaustion that you feel at the end of the day after being on Zoom or video calls all day? How to improve your concentration and how to just overall reduce that anxiety that you might experience. And so that's what I'm going to talk a little bit more, but I just wanted to share about specifically the reasons we're experiencing Zoom fatigue or the reasons that it impacts us. Again, there's that 1.2 second delay in communication. So even as I'm sharing this to you all now, I know that as I'm communicating, there's a little bit of a delay by the time you receive it, right? There's no space for transitions, right? So what I find now is people will just go into the Zoom meetings and be expected to be ready and have to participate, right, and be on it. Versus if you were in class or if you were doing anything in person, you're either walking to a place, you're getting to talk to someone, you get to choose what that looks like. And so we have the transition, the timing, and then just generally this, our minds are having to process so much more information because we're trying to look at different social cues on a screen, and we're not used to having to interact with people in that way. And we're distracted by ourselves in the image of seeing ourselves on the screen. Those are all things that are very cognitively draining. All right. So now I want to talk about different strategies to manage Zoom fatigue, but I always like to hear what you all do yourselves. So I know that, yeah, physical issues, right? Yeah, like you end up sitting for too long, you're not moving in the same way, it hurts your back. But I know that earlier on you mentioned like having to move away from your laptop to avoid maybe headaches. What are some things that you all maybe are naturally already doing? So something I'll highlight that you are doing is having like your personal video off. That really helps with managing. Is that what you're gonna say, Elijah?
I was gonna say something I did.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Something that I started.
Yeah. Mhm.
Something that I started doing is like usually I do Zoom in my bed like in the morning. So something I started doing was getting out on the kitchen table and just sitting up straight so I can like do more work. It helps me do more work instead of just being in my bed all day.
Yeah. So switching up the space that you're working in, and I someone wrote, Jennifer, thank you, removing distractions, right? So managing it by kind of recognizing the spaces that are hard, mentally preparing yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And what would mentally preparing yourself for a Zoom, or what would mentally preparing yourself mean? Can you expand on that? Yeah. So getting ready to answer questions and just, yeah, just being mentally prepared to have to be engaged, right? And have to like put your like student hat on or active participant hat on. Be comfortable, be in a position where you can focus on the laying down. Yeah. And you know what's hard is that I understand that for some people, you're not expecting to have to do all of this from home. So you're not in spaces that are conducive to learning in that way, right? And so you're having some people don't have other options rather than sit on their bed to do their work. And that makes it hard because now this bed is a place you do work, it's where you sleep. So it's like your rest and your work are in the same location, and that's hard. But yeah, so being comfortable, yeah, go on, Eddie.
Excuse me. Something I do to help me with the fatigue, because usually just sitting down in front of the computer makes me really bored, and it's like I stop paying attention. So something I do is I just sometimes I get on the Zoom meeting on the phone,
Mhm.
and I get earphones, and a lot of my teachers just lecture. So on days that I know they're just gonna lecture, I just listen to it instead of just looking at them too. So I just listen, and it helps me concentrate a little bit better.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Eddie. And then that sounds like you're really aware of your learning style as well. It sounds like you're an auditory learner, and that's a
Right. Yeah.
good skill to know. Yeah, if you like acknowledge kind of your learning style, if it's easier, some people are more visual learners, and that's hard because like you want to look at the material, but if you can be a more if audio learning is better, and being able to have that break where you get to turn not have the video even be an option, right? If you're calling in and just being able to listen. Are there any other strategies that you all use? Anything else that you find helpful?
I was gonna say no, but I picture it as a podcast, how like Eddie was saying that you listen to it for like some of my lectures with my professors. If I know it's gonna be a lecture and I don't need to visually see something, then I'll just listen to it and rewatch the recording if I have to look at any like graphs or like anything that is for me to learn from a visual aspect. But I do that as well sometimes, like when I listen to recordings or live lectures, just 'cause it helps me to I can walk around, because me sitting in a chair physically is like, I think working from home for almost a year now has taken like a physical and mental toll on my body. Like my neck hurts all the time. Like literally I'm always in meetings and I'm always like, oh, let me stretch, let me go for a little walk. Or I'll do something physical to help with the mental.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to go into some strategies to help manage something that I realized I didn't highlight, but I'm about to highlight in the next one. Something that we often do that will intensify the Zoom fatigue is because we'll try to multitask, right? Yeah, because there's always a screen competition going on, and our minds, in addition to trying to process everything going on, to multitask, that's not helpful. I'm trying to remember the stats. I wanted to share it with y'all. I looked it up, I can't find it, but when you multitask, you lose like up to 40% productivity. So that means that what you're doing is actually way less effective in that time. And so when you are on Zoom, when your mind is having to process too much, and let's say you get like a notification on your phone, or you get a notification of your email, or anything that just distracts you in any smaller capacity, in that moment, your mind has to switch. And even though it's a small switch, over time, that's essentially all that multitasking. So something that I realized, I don't know if I put this in the slide, but I have my computer notifications all turned off, so that when I am doing things and when I am in meetings or when I'm doing this, I'm not also having a lot of like email pop up or whatever notification pop up, because that will add to the multitasking. But yeah, Jennifer, I think, yeah, showering to wake yourself up. Yeah, like something that's a good strategy to help you feel more grounded, feel more awake. And again, that's distracting you, putting you in a new environment. So let's talk about some strategies, some recommended strategies based on the newer research as well, because this is new. So we'll see, like I always recommend trying things out, but this is new. And some of this information I pulled up, I think are found from articles that were published like just like a few weeks ago. So really, really new. So some of the things that I mentioned. So one is incorporating a transition between video calls. That could be as simple as like engaging in a grounding exercise, stretching, switching and going into another room. For some people, this might mean going into one of your meetings or classes or anything a little bit early, right? So that you're there, and because as in person, we would have these conversations with people, right? Like side conversations, and we can't really do that. And I know it's hard to do that over Zoom, but one of the recommendations I read was to like show up early and see if you can just engage with someone in that way, to just normalize that for you and make it feel more like our traditional interactions. Um, Another one is minimize distractions, which is what I just talked about, right? Finding ways to minimize all these extra items that are going to take up cognitive energy and cognitive space. So if it's those notifications, turn your video off and hide your self view. Because our minds, again, we're not used to looking at our face all day long and thinking about it. And so that can be incredibly distracting. So turning that off, so that's not something that you focus on. So you can do that, or you can hide self-view, because I know in some spaces they want you to be on camera for whatever reason. So if you do that, you can hide self-view so that you don't have to look at yourself. The other one that I have on here, so like definitely taking movement breaks. And many of you, I think, mentioned this, like showering is taking a movement break. Going on a walk is a movement break. And think about it, right? In between classes in person, you would have to walk from one to another, right? And so trying to navigate, how do you have that transition time for yourself? Avoid multitasking. Again, I think it's like a 40% reduction in productivity. And so you're not actually getting as much work done, and you're not absorbing as much information. Switching to speaker view is also nice, because what's hard is when you're in this room with a lot of people and that gallery view. I don't know about you all, but I've been on some calls where there's so many people, and I'm like, I can't. It's just a bunch of little people in boxes. And so I will always turn speaker view to help with navigating that. And the tip that I really liked was surrounding yourself with things that inspire you, so that when you are having a moment where you're feeling stressed and maybe you need to feel grounded, right? Having those affirmations around you, or having things that make you feel good. So of these, now that I've talked about some strategies that I think are helpful, you all mentioned that you do some of these, but how do you envision um, incorporating any of these for you? Like, what do you think that, which strategy do you think would be most helpful for you? And I want to hear from you.
I take movement breaks.
Yes.
That's
You said going on walks is what you like for your movement breaks, right? Okay, movement break. And for those of you who
Honestly,
go on, Elijah.
I never knew about Zoom fatigue before, so I don't really think I've ever done anything like to combat this. But maybe I have like not I haven't consciously
Mhm.
I haven't purposely like did things to offset Zoom fatigue, but
Mhm.
yeah, I never seen. I can't talk right now, but
Okay, can
I
you?
never.
Oh, what my question is now is essentially like looking at this list, like which of these things do you think that some of you might already be doing this unconsciously, right? Without needing that because you just took cues naturally from your body. But if you're looking at this list, what do you see that that could be helpful for you or that you can apply moving forward?
I know I've changed my location,
Mhm.
and yeah, I've turned off my video,
Mhm.
and I speed review. I try to turn off like the sidebar where it shows all the people, so I can just focus on what the people are saying.
Yes,
That's what I like.
absolutely. Excellent strategies. Maybe that's why you aren't feeling it too much. Like you're already doing it. What are other ones that you can envision yourself engaging or using of these strategies that I'm talking about? And just so that you know, the reason that I ask is the way that we learn, the more that if you say it to yourself, if you identify something, then you are going to be you are more likely to be motivated to then engage in this, right? So if we were to say, like, after today, I want you to try one of these strategies so that you can help begin to manage and like reduce any Zoom fatigue. Like, which strategy would you want to try? Which one do you think you'd prioritize? Which strategy would you prioritize? That's what I want to ask. And as always, you can put your answers in the chat if that feels less intimidating than to speak up, definitely. But I really would love to hear from more of you for this one, just for your learning and engagement.
Do you mind repeating the question, Dr. Sanchez?
Yeah, no, I can definitely do that. Which of these strategies will you incorporate into your daily Zoom or video experience? I essentially want you to identify which one you want to try. Okay, thank you. Was that good? Okay. So hiding self-view, absolutely. Avoiding multitasking, yes. Yeah, surrounding yourself with things that inspire. Yeah, yes, avoiding multitasking. Mhm. Mhm. So thanks for those of you who have been sharing. Yeah, surrounding yourself with things that inspire you. Less screen time. Absolutely. Yeah, when you can't have the option to take space, right? This is under the assumption that you have to be on. So when you don't have to be on, not being on is great. And just because I'm just genuinely curious and learning more, because a few of you talked about like surrounding yourself with things that inspire you. What kinds of things would that be? Do you think that'd be like, do you have like a quote that you find particularly inspiring, a figure, a person? What would that look like?
An example
Mhm.
for some things that inspire me is I like to draw. It's a hobby of mine that I personally enjoy. And sometimes I just place a sketchbook next to me. So let's say when I'm a bit stressed over an assignment or whatever, I just turn around to my right or left side and I just look at my sketchbook and I think to myself, let me finish this and then I'll draw. I don't know. But that helps me because yeah, it's I don't know. Art is just an escape for me.
Yeah, and it also sounds like it's a passion, right? So it's a, when you have something that you're passionate about, it's always inspiring, right? Because it's something you feel excited to do. It's something you look forward to doing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. If you ever want to share any of your art, I love seeing people's art. I don't know how we could do that, but we can figure it out. What about other, Marjorie, would you feel comfortable sharing more about what are some things that inspire you that you would want to surround yourself with? Instagram art showcasing. Oh, I like that. So just sort of noticing for you, Alia, like the notifications, it's like, okay, there's notifications. I want to be able to get to them. So I need to finish my work. Okay, yeah. So I think the next slide, I don't know if I put it on here. Okay. Let me go back to can you all see the Zoom fatigue this checklist? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
perfect. So I just want to share this with you all. All right. So this is a document that you are all, did you already send it to them? Or will they have access to this later?
I can send it right now.
Okay.
We can
that's
send
fine.
it once we have the emails of everybody that attended, but we'll send it
Okay.
and I'll post it on Instagram right now.
No, I don't even follow. I should follow you on Instagram because I don't know.
Follow us. We'll give you a shout out.
I know. I need to do that. So just to make it easier to remember, for how to manage Zoom fatigue, we created a checklist for you all. So this kind of highlights the ones that we talked about. So the reason that I was asking you, like, which one are you going to do? Which one is going to be the next one? So I don't expect you to check off every single one of these items, but I really want you to look at this list and identify, like, how do you prioritize them, right? Which one do you identify that could be the most helpful, that's also feasible for you? So I try to list them in order, or just list the ones that I didn't, they're not in any specific order, is what I'm trying to say. So it doesn't mean that the first one's more important, the last one's less important. So it's whatever it is to you. So my challenge to you is, if over the next week or so, begin to integrate at least one of these into your daily life or lived like video call, like the days that you have classes, so that you can notice, right? Like, does this make a difference for me? Am I feeling less tired than usual? Am I feeling more energy to engage with others? So this is a checklist. And I try to make it so that it's easy to even just do online. Like, if you want to do it on Instagram, write yourself and fill it out. But just really thinking about what are these things that you're doing to help you navigate the Zoom fatigue. Right. That's it in terms of the content that I had for today. So let me go back to the. As always, I always like to remind you all of the different resources that are available that for just mental health to just be more accessible. So these are always linked at the end of my slides, and our different crisis resources as needed. And then my contact info. And I just want to have some space for questions.
I just added the Zoom fatigue to the chat, but I'm also going to post it on Instagram, so in case students want to screenshot and save, those who didn't attend.
What is what is the Instagram handle?
We are at UNT, let me double check UNTD.upwardbound.
Upward Bound.
Yeah, UNTD.upwardbound on Instagram.
Perfect. I'll look you all up. And Jeff, I'm so glad that you enjoyed the session. I always, It's always new information. When has the in-person been rescheduled? Oh,
Oh, that's for us.
that's for you all.
Rescheduled for the 27th. We'll see y'all Saturday, this Saturday, don't forget. We'll have Dr. Sanchez and Mr. Terry from our very last session in December. It'll be a pretty cool one. So it'll be on multiculturalism and then your sessions on
The
imposter
imposter
syndrome.
phenomenon.
Yes.
I'm really excited about the talk on Saturday. I can't, like, it's one of my favorite talks to give. It's information heavy. It's information heavy. These other ones are not as information heavy, but you'll learn a lot. Like, I'm really excited for that one. But because this is on Zoom fatigue, I was trying to minimize information overload. I balance that. And so that's why I want to give more space, questions, things that other specific things I can answer, maybe not necessarily related to this talk. I have the time for it so we can check in, but I guess I can stop sharing. Oh, no worries, Marjorie. I was just checking in about like the different things that help inspire you because you had commented that, but I understand.
Any more questions before we close out? No. Before y'all leave, remember Saturday, 9 o'clock. Registration link will go up tomorrow on our Instagram. 2 sessions, 10 and 11. And then we'll have some updates on the March 27th session. We have some pretty cool things happening on campus that day. And we need some feedback from you all. Also really quick, we're gonna do it before we start our sessions on Saturday. We're gonna send out a reminder, but please be sure to select 3 items from your house. If you have it, cool. If not, you can Google picture it. But have those ready, 3 items that describe your identity, who you are as a person. They can be religious items, they can be food, they can be anything in your house, anything that you possess.
When is it? When do we
3
do that?
items. 3 items. And have that ready for Saturday. So we're going to have like a little discussion before our first session. But we'll put it on Instagram. Eddie, you said there's no.
Okay.
We'll send it via Instagram and we'll send it via Remind. So everybody will have like the mini assignment ready. If y'all don't have anything else, thank you, Dr. Sanchez, for joining us.
Definitely.
We're
Yeah,
excited
thank you
to
for
see you
having me.
Saturday.
Yeah, see you Saturday. That activity sounds fun. I'm like 3 items. Mine would like be 2 out of 3 is probably cat stuff. But anyway, so take care of yourself. And I'll see you all on Saturday, and it'll be bright and early for me.
Alrighty. Bye, y'all. We'll hang around here if y'all need anything from us.
Bye.